I always like going over this, the psychology of color. I think that this is just so fascinating. According to research compiled by web design and marketing company WebPage FX, people make a subconscious judgment about a product in less than 90 seconds of viewing. And a majority of these people base the assessment on color alone. And you've probably done this. Think about the last time that what's something we all have to do? We have to go grocery shopping. And the funny thing is we don't actually have to really go into the grocery store anymore, which is awesome. I am a huge proponent of Walmart grocery, where you just select your groceries online, you pick a time, you go there at that time, and they just put the groceries into your trunk for you. And then that is it. And you don't have to pay extra. You don't have to tip them. I mean, it's such a great service. But if you're at the grocery store, or even if you're browsing online, we probably make a judgment about which product we're going to use in under 90 seconds. And a lot of time, it's based on the packaging. And also, it might even be based on the color of the packaging. How many times have you probably bought a name brand product over the generic, even though there was a huge cost difference, and you know the quality is probably exactly the same, but you did it based on the packaging? I mean, I am just as guilty as anybody else of doing that sometimes. And it's true, 85% of consumers actually cite color as the primary reason that they buy a particular product. And 80% of people believe that color increases the brand recognition. So and I'm not talking about like cereal or maybe even food items, like you might even buy paper plates, something that is completely disposable, and you don't even realize that you're buying the name brand just because that packaging stood out to you on the shelf, so you just grab the item, and there might have been an extremely similar item that was, more reasonably priced next to it, but the packaging wasn't as good, it didn't stand out as well, so therefore you didn't grab it. Which can be another good reason why buying your groceries online, though, does help, because you see everything is as prominent on the page, and sometimes the price point will stand out a little bit more. I do find that I spend less money when I buy my groceries online. All right, but let's look at the psychology of logo colors, and we're going to go over the primary colors today. So first is red. It's got the personality and emotion of red. It evokes some strong emotions. It encourages appetite. It increases passion and intensity. Red roses, they symbolize love. In politics, worldwide, it represents socialist parties or communists, but in the USA, it's used for Republicans. In marketing, it increases the heart rate. It's used by restaurants to stimulate appetite. And I'm going to kind of circle back to that one in a minute. It creates urgency, often seen in clearance items or on those sale signs, and it's used for impulsive shoppers. As far as the chakra goes, it's the root chakra. It's located at the base of the spine, related to survival, safety, and the physical self. So I'm going to kind of come off of my full screen mode for a second. So think about what I said. It's used by restaurants to stimulate appetite. So I am going to pull up Red Robin, just because I'm thinking of the word red, and I'm going to go to their website. First off, their logo is in red, but let's take a look at their menu. Will be the easiest way to do this. Food and drink. So we've got so much red throughout this. Let's see what happens when click on here. I was hoping that I could find a PDF of their logo. Because I know when you go to the restaurant and you look at their logo and you look at their menu, there are certain items where they are in red, and those are their signature items. There's another restaurant, the 99, that it's kind of local to New England, but their menu basically does the same exact thing. Featured items are always, the entrees are in red, appetizers, desserts, the things that they want to stand out are in red. A lot of red within the menu. There's a reason for that. Let's think of another restaurant. Let me try to think of one off the top of my head. Probably Pizza Hut. I haven't been to a Pizza Hut in years, but their logo is red. And then you get, $5 lineup, large, free pizza, everything that they want to stand out, it stands out in red. And, there's a lot of marketing decisions that go into creating that menu and creating that look. And I don't think it would stand out as well, or I would be so inclined to want to see about the free pizza if the text was in orange, or if the text was green or blue. There's something about the text being red that really creates that urgency. Kind of like when you see a sale sign and you see those clearance signs or sale or, 0% financing. It's always the part that they're trying to hook you with is always bold and in red. So here are some red logos. We've got McDonald's, Target, Kmart, Netflix, Kellogg's, Frito-Lay's, Lay's, Texaco, Avis, Nabisco. We have a lot of food, a lot of food places. CNN. We should stop and think about that. CNN, breaking news, Lego, Pinterest, Time, CNET, Heinz, YouTube, Red Robin, H&M, Nintendo, Exxon, Ace Hardware, Virgin Mobile, CVS, the Rolling Stones, Adobe, Coca-Cola, Toyota. So you can see lots of red, vibrant, really bold logos. Then we have yellow. So I've got my little sale sign because again, just to kind of point that, used to grab attention of window shoppers. So that and the sale, create urgency, grab their attention. But the personality and emotion of yellow, it increases cheerfulness and warmth, but it can cause fatigue and strain on the eyes. So you'll notice that the yellow in my text, it's not 100% yellow. It's kind of almost to the orange spectrum. That was for you guys to make it a little bit easier on your eyes to read it on a white background. It's been known to make babies cry. It stimulates mental processes and the nervous system. So that could be why it makes them cry. It encourages communication. In politics, it represents liberalism. In marketing, it represents optimism and youthfulness, again, used to grab attention of window shoppers and shows clarity. For the chakra, it is the solar plexus chakra located in the upper abdomen between the navel and the sternum, and it relates to personal power, will, and self-esteem. So back to it making babies cry. When I moved into the house that I am in right now, it was a new house. No one had lived in it before. It was a new build. We didn't have it built. It just happened to be a new build that had gotten sold. And all of the walls were white. And when we walked in, we were like, man, I don't know. I said, this house seems really cold. And I said, I don't know if it's the lack of color on the walls or if it actually is cold in here. And I mean, we bought this house in the beginning of December, so it was cold out. But, when we did make the decision to buy it, I said, we need to paint the walls yellow. It's going to warm the place up so much better than, the way it is now. So that's what we did. We painted pretty much all of the walls in the house this really kind of buttercream warm yellow. And it really warmed it up in here. But when we found out that we were having my daughter, I said to my husband, I said, I think we're going to want to paint the baby's room. Now, mind you, our room is yellow as well. Every other room in this house, except for, the office downstairs, which is the crazy green color you've probably seen, the green and gray when I turn on my camera, is yellow. And he said, I just painted all these walls. Why do we need to repaint it? She's not going to care. And I said, I teach color psychology, and yellow has been known to make babies cry. That was the only thing I had to tell him. And he was like, all right, what color do you want? And I said, well, I think a nice soothing purple would be nice. It's very peaceful, tranquil. He was like, peaceful and tranquil. Sounds like baby sleep. And you know what? We painted her room that color. It is a very, very peaceful color. And she does sleep very well. Either she's just a baby who sleeps well, or, maybe there is something to be said about it. So I tell everybody this. I'm like, make sure your walls aren't yellow in the baby's room. Makes them cry. So now with our son's room, we're going to be doing the same exact thing. Painted, I'm like, let's do a nice, light bluish color, calming. I said, not yellow. It's still yellow in there. We don't want crying babies. All right, so we actually have some yellow logos, and you'll notice most of these logos are actually paired with another color, because again, yellow on its own can be very difficult to see. So we've got Nikon, National Geographic, Shell. We have the McDonald's arches, but what we saw before is this is the full McDonald's logo with the red background. This is just the arches, kind of taken out of the background. Hertz, the Yellow Pages, the old AOL guy, Cat, Sun Chips, Sprint, DHL, shipping. I don't even know if they're still in business. IKEA, IMDb, Pennzoil, Denny's, and the old Best Buy logo. They actually have a new Best Buy logo, and I don't believe it is yellow anymore. I'm going to have to take that one out. All right, so next up, blue. Personality and emotions. It's associated with water and peace. It's most preferred by men. Why? Because somebody somewhere told them it was a boy's color. It used to be the opposite. It used to be the girls were put in blue and boys were put in pink, and then somewhere somebody changed it. This one is interesting. It's been known to curb appetite. It also represents calmness and serenity, which, when you're thinking of men, you always think of calmness and serenity. That's my blue joke. It's known as a cold color, which is true. If you've ever walked into a room that's painted a very, very blue, it probably feels cold, and it wouldn't. And if you walked into a room that's painted that same, at the same exact temperature, painted that warm yellow color, it might feel warmer, and that can just be your eyes playing tricks on you. Your perception of something, because it is that color. It's been known to increase productivity, therefore it is used in office settings. And if you have ever worked in a office setting that is, cubicle city, as I like to call it, chances are good that your cubicles probably had some underlying blue color to them. Because again, we're just trying to make you as productive as possible. Every place I have ever worked that has had cubicles has had some sort of a bluish hue to it. Maybe there's a bluish hue to the fabric of the cubicle, or to the rug, or something like that, or the walls. Yeah. So much blue. In politics, worldwide, it represents the Conservative Party, but in the US, we use it for the Democrats. In marketing, it's often used in corporate business because it is productive and considered non-invasive. It can be known to create a sense of security and trust in a brand. And then as far as the chakra goes, is the throat chakra, the base of the throat, and it relates to communication, truth, and self-expression. So the curbing appetite I find to be interesting, because if you go onto the Weight Watchers website, you will see that Their logo is blue, and they use a lot of blue within their website. Different from how restaurants are using red. Even, you know, if you go to like MyFitnessPal, they use a lot of blue on their website. What's another one? I think Jenny Craig might actually, no, they're blue as well. So same thing, you know, lots of blue on their website. So again, you know, they've taken that marketing and they're really using it. And, you know, hey, known to curb appetite. That's what we're trying to do here. That is the name of our game. Here are some blue logos. We've got the Facebook logo, the Twitter logo, the LinkedIn logo. So lots of social media logos. Pepsi, JP Morgan, Oreo, Skype, Lowe's, Vimeo, Oral-B, Flickr, Microsoft Word, Walmart, Ford, American Express, GE, and Dell. But also, you know, a lot of different insurance companies use blue. Nationwide Insurance, what's another one? State Farm actually uses red. Allstate uses blue. And a couple of other ones that use blue as well. So again, you know, they're building up that sense of security. All right, so let's discuss next our principles of graphic design. And those principles are actually called, or the acronym for them are the CRAP principles, C-R-A-P, which can stand for contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. So I've kind of shared these, I believe, with you already, but, you know, contrast, if two elements are different, make those differences striking. So we have a lot of contrast in this Mad Men poster, not just between the black and the white, but, you know, adding in the red is contrasting with the gray. That you've got this juxtaposition of, you know, the female on one side, the male on the other side. Very strong colors. Your eye does not linger on one part of the poster for long. It's constantly moving throughout the piece. And that's because of the contrast in that poster. Next, we have repetition. So using repeated elements to direct, organize, or structure. So you can see in these business cards that the pattern in the background, those lines, are being used to help add some structure to the piece, to direct the piece, to organize the piece, and it brings the piece together nicely. Then we have alignment. So lining up elements to create visual structure. So again, this I believe it's a poster, has a very strong center alignment. Not only is everything centered right down the middle, it's centered vertically within the piece. You can see when it's broken up into sections, you know, the different parts. This quadrant right here, this quadrant right here, this quadrant down here, this quadrant down here, and then each of these sides, there is, you know, all different sections of the, which are equal, the alignment's equal. So equal on either side, equal top to bottom, etc. Then we have proximity. So this one is always a little bit difficult for people to understand, I think, out of all of the principles. What it means is you would clump together related elements so that their spatial relationships organize and emphasize. So let me pull up an example of a poster. Might be easier for me to just go to this. Actually, this is a good one. Ads everywhere. So right here, hopefully I can make it, well, all right, so here's where the proximity comes in. You know, healthy living with a dash of sweetness. So we've got a headline and a sub-headline, and then we have these icons. And they're within, you know, they're close to each other. Their proximity is close because they relate to each other. Then we have, you know, this little blurb about the cherries. So again, you know, proximity, it's, you know, it's nicely sectioned in this area, this little blurb, but it's also on top of the image of the cherries. So good proximity there. Let me see if there's another good one. This is actually a really good example. So we have our headline, Are You Ready? 75 Black Friday sale. So up to 75% store wide, limited amount available, all day on November 27th, 2015. We missed the sale, guys. We totally missed the sale. But you can see each of the different pieces, there's 3 main pieces of information here, and their proximity is near each other. You know, they didn't take this up to 75% store wide, limited amount available all day on the 27th November 2015. Just run it all in 2 lines of text. They broke it up and kept like pieces together. And it also, there's a repetition in the way that the text is laid out. This is the same font and the same font size. It's within, you know, a similar area. You know, there's good contrast in this piece. There's good alignment in this piece. This is actually a great example of putting all of those elements of the CRAP principles together. So again, you know, try to visualize, all right, what needs to stay together on my page? You know, probably the headline and the subheadline should be in close proximity to each other. The body copy should be in close proximity to each other. Maybe my call to action should be placed further away so it stands out. And it's not, everything isn't just smack dab in the middle of the piece. So that's how we try to design things using those CRAP principles. All right, so I gave you guys a couple of tips and tricks for this week because we're going to be doing some designing this week. So fonts, limit the number of fonts on your page. If it's a poster, I wouldn't go with more than 2 fonts. Do not mix 2 serif fonts together. Do not mix 2 sans serif fonts together. Use 1 serif and 1 sans serif. Or use, you know, if you want to stick within the same family, use Helvetica Bold and then Helvetica Regular. Something like that, where because you can create contrast with your fonts. Remember the KISS principles. Keep it simple, stupid. A simple design can be really beautiful. That last poster we were looking at, very simple, but very eloquently put together. Colors, limit your colors. And the way you can do this is by picking a color scheme. Also, high value colors are high contrast, but they're easy to class. So what does that mean? If you use all primary colors, very high contrast colors, but when I look at that, I say, those are all primary colors. What do primary colors make you think of? Well, maybe like, you know, a children's place or a, you know, something kid related where you're learning your primary colors. So you don't want to narrow yourself into a box like that. Really think out your color scheme. Stand out. Make your designs unique, distinct, easily recognizable. Think about what Nike, Apple, and Volkswagen do. They have very simple designs, but they have very recognizable designs. All right, let's talk a little bit about spot versus process color now. So this is one of the things that you will definitely run into in the printing world, spot and process. And I just need to take a quick sip of my drink, if you don't mind. All this talking kind of driving my throat nuts today. Awful allergies. So spot colors, those are colors that are created without screens or dots, and they are found in the Pantone matching system. And in the industry, we call them spot or solid colors. And from a palette of 18 basic colors, each of the spot colors in the Pantone matching system is mixed according to its own unique ink mixing formula, which was developed by Pantone. Yes, you can probably mix yellow and blue paint to get green, but creating a Pantone spot color is similar in concept, but it has an extreme need for precision. Pantone will say, if you order this Pantone green, it will always look the same. It will not have any variation in the mixing. So that's how precise it is. And sometimes when things are put down on a printing press, CMYK, you know, somewhere when the inks are first being laid down, they come out really dark. Somewhere in the middle of all of that printing, it starts to even itself out and lighten up again, and it looks correct. Somewhere towards the end, before the ink is slapped back on, it starts to get too light. So there is a variation in that mixing. With Pantone, you don't run into that. Each color in the system has a unique name or number that is followed by either a C or a U, and the letter suffix refers to the paper stock on which it's printed. C for coated paper and U for uncoated paper. Also created without screens are the Pantone metallic and pastel colors, and they're considered part of the Pantone matching system as well. So due to the gamut of the 18 basic colors, some spot colors will be cleaner and brighter than if they were created in the 4-color process that we're going to go over in the next slide. Spot colors are commonly used in corporate logos and identity programs because you want to be consistent with your logo at all times. And then other times where they're used is when you have smaller print jobs where you might only want to use 1, 2, or 3 colors, so not a 4-color job. Next, we have process color, and this is the most common method of achieving color in printing. Is referred to as CMYK, or 4-color process, or 4C, or even just process if you're I've seen it all different ways. To reproduce a color image, a file is separated into 4 different colors: cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. And during the separation, screen tints comprised of very small dots are applied at different angles to each of the 4 colors. The screened separations are then transferred to 4 different printing plates, 1 for each color, and run on a printing press, with 1 color overprinting the next. And the composite image fools the naked eye with the illusion of a continuous tone. Process colors are represented as percentages of cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. Varying the percentages offers thousands of color possibilities. When 4-color process printing is used to reproduce photographs, decorative elements such as borders and graphics can be created out of process colors. This helps to avoid the added expense of that extra plate needed to print each spot color. All right, so that's a lot to take in. I'm actually going to explain this process to you because I worked in an industry where I basically had to do all of this from start to finish, except for running the press. They never let me run the press for some reason. All right. So when I worked at this company called Supercoops, we did direct mail coupons, and we were a from start to finish company, meaning that you sent in the paperwork, we did the design for you, we sent you back a proof, you approved the proof, then it went over to our print department, it got paginated and put up on the plates, it went over to the printing press, it was run through the printing press, then it was sent over to the cutters, it was cut to the size it needed to be, then it was shoved into an envelope, and then it was picked up by the mailman and sent to the home. You didn't have to do anything. All you had to do was say, yep, I want to buy a coupon from you. So we had to be very aware when we were putting together our files that we were a 4-color printing press. We didn't offer spot colors or spot jobs because it was just too much to retune the machines to do it that way. And we didn't get enough jobs where it merited it. So everything that came over needed to be set up as 4-color process. And we used to get a lot of PDFs from franchises because you could own a Super Coops franchise. And if you were a big enough franchise, you could have your own graphic designer to save on costs, and they could put together all of the artwork for you and send over a print-ready PDF that was it was ready to go. It was sent directly to the pre-press department, set up on a page, and shot over to the printing press. And you got a discount for doing that. And I actually worked as an artist for a franchise as well, being their one artist. So towards the end of my time there, they started having everyone work in pre-press as well. It used to be that pre-press was its own department and they had their own set of workers, and then they integrated the two departments together, which, cool story, bro, right? But I mean, that's the reason why I understand the whole process of setting up plates. So what we did was we had this machine back there and this extremely old PC, which ran this program, which looked like it was from the dark ages, and it was so slow. But what it did was it took all of the PDFs that were going to, go on this one plate, and you set them all up, and it separated them out to CMYK. So you had a cyan plate that just showed let me see if I can, the easiest way to break this down, because it really makes more sense if you have a visual. That was not what I wanted to show. There we go. Okay. Ink manager. Oh, it's probably not going to show me it. It used to do it where you could kind of pre-flate it and look at the plates. Let's drag it into Photoshop. But what it was is this machine would spit out 4 different metal plates. And on each of the plates, it would look grayscale. It would, different variations of grayscale, which represented the different amounts of ink, basically, that needed to be placed on the paper. So you would, the ink would actually stick to the image that was on this metal plate because of the way that the plates were treated. So let me pull up my layers, which should be open somewhere. Where are you? Layers. Oh, channels. That's what I want. So you would have a cyan plate that would look like this. You would have a magenta plate, which would look like this. A yellow plate that would look like this, and then your black plate. And that is how much ink was going to be laid down on the paper. This is how much cyan was going to be laid down on the paper. This is how much magenta that was going to be laid down. Yellow, and then black. And when it got to the end of the press, it would look like this. And I've tried in the past to find a good video. That isn't long and boring, and I always have such difficulty kind of finding a video like that. But it would start off at the beginning where the paper would run through completely clean, and then it would pass through the cyan, and just the cyan would come down. Then it would pass through the magenta, and you would start to see like the image coming through. Then it would pass through the yellow. Then it would pass through the black. And as each color was being put down, when it got to the end, you would see the full image. And why I say that it matters about the amount of ink is it always seemed like when the pressmen would load the machines back up with ink, the first few passes that went through would always be a little bit darker while they kind of got the machine set up again. And so they would have to take those couple of sheets of paper out, until they got it just right, the ink coating just right on the plates, and they would toss them. And, again, this is how it was set up. So if something came over to us and it was not set up as CMYK, if it was set up in RGB, that meant that you had a red plate, a green plate, and a blue plate. Well, those aren't cyan, magenta, yellow, or black. So if you had one RGB image that you missed and you forgot to make it CMYK, it might end up on a fifth plate over here. And if somebody didn't notice that fifth plate get shot out of the machine and they just picked up CMYK, put those jobs together, the next one, CMYK, put the jobs together, and didn't notice that one extra plate that maybe had, looked like it was completely blank, but might have had just this one little image down in the corner here that they didn't notice, it wouldn't get printed because it was RGB. So these are real errors that can happen if you're not setting up your documents correctly and it goes to a printing press. And you know what? That wouldn't be on the printer. It would be on you because you sent the file over and you said this was ready to go. And we used to run into those problems a lot with some of the other graphic designers. And so we would have to charge them and say, listen, your files, they did not come over print ready. We had to take your PDFs. We had to pull the whole PDF apart and, change images from RGB to CMYK, put it all back together, and then get it over to the press. And there's a charge for that. Or you can try to get us a new file and we'll see if we can get it onto the press in time, but you've already missed your deadline. So again, things to think about when you're sending things over to the printer. And I used to see that happen a lot. And there were times where, it didn't get caught. Things went out in the mail and they were missing images. There were a couple of times where the logo was the wrong color. The logo was spot. It wasn't processed. So we've got this great free pizza. Don't know who it's for. The logo's missing off the coupon because the artist didn't set it up correctly. So, again, oftentimes a spot Pantone matching system color is required when creating a process printed piece, but to save money, the spot color needs to be evaluated to see how it will look if it's printed in CMYK, to see how it's going to look if they want to print a coupon. While some colors can be simulated really well, there are many that are just outside of the possible color gamut for that process, and they're going to end up looking quite different. As the quality of the resulting color conversion is very subjective, the designer can make decisions using the Pantone Color Bridge Guide as well as the Pantone Extended Color Gamut Coded Guide. And most Adobe programs convert spot to process right within the program. But these are things that you want to consider when you are picking colors. You want to pick a color that can easily be converted from spot to process and vice versa. Because if it can't, there is always going to be a situation where what it is that you have created needs to be printed as 4-color process. Because your client cannot always have something printed only using the Pantone color system. Some places just don't print with it. Again, the most common method of achieving color in printing is referred to as that CMYK, and that's because that's what most presses use. So for our assignment for this week, you're going to need to use the Pantone Color Picker. And I've given you a little bit of a how to find it in Illustrator, some screenshots, because it can be a little cumbersome to kind of get in there and find where everything's located. So you'll want to go to Window, Swatches, and then from within there, open the swatch library, go to color books, and then select either the Pantone solid coated or the solid uncoated. And that's how you are going to find those colors. All right, what time is it? It's 1 o'clock. Well, 1 o'clock my time. Before we do our color review, why don't we go in and take a look at what we have to do for this week? Because you guys can kind of review those slides on your own if you need to. So our objectives for this week, this is our intro to print production. And we're going to be differentiating between spot, Pantone, RGB, and CMYK color models. So much color, so little time. Identify and apply the correct use of swatches and color libraries, and then again discuss the role color plays in our big 4 design principles: contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. And the CRAP principles are going to pretty much come up in every single one of your design classes going forward. We're going to analyze how color is used to create consistency in a print campaign, and identify and apply correct resolution for print output. Let's look at our discussion for this week. So we're talking about color and design principles this week, and here's our background. Every visual composition involves a foreground-background relationship. The relationship between the foreground or subject and the area that surrounds it is extraordinarily important. Contrast, one of the 4 big principles of design, dictates whether the foreground-background relationship is working well or failing. If there is enough contrast between the color of typography and the background it is placed upon, we can read it. If they're too similar in shade or hue, the reading can be difficult. Too much contrast, meaning those complementary colors, that can also create an issue. For example, red type on a green background tends to vibrate, making the text difficult to read. And remember what I said last week, those people that are red-green colorblind, they will not be able to read it at all. It's just going to show up as gray. Contrast can be defined in many ways, but primarily means change or difference. As described above, it can create the relationship between foreground and background. Color contrast is also one of the primary ways graphic designers create focal points. Too much color contrast, meaning too many different colors within the layout, that can lead to confusion, while too few colors create a flat design that doesn't have a focal point. In order to create color contrast, a second design principle, repetition, must be in place. Repetition in color ensures unity within the design, but it can be boring. So pairing repetitive color use of a color with a few color contrasts is the key to creating a successful layout. So here's a tip. Squint at the poster design that you choose this week. Low contrast palettes have the same tonal range when you squint at it, while a high contrast palette will range from very dark to very light. Squinting allows you to look at tonal aspects of a design without seeing the design elements themselves, and is a useful tool for discerning when contrast is needed or overdone. For example, if you squint at the photo at the top of the page, you will find it is predominantly low contrast and monochromatic. The eye is drawn to the framed type on the page by the stark contrast of black on white when compared to the gray surrounding. There is contrast in the texture of the bricks to the smoothness of the framed type as well. Repetition is used in the brick shape, creating a background to the picture. The tonal range of the other elements of the photo are also very similar, which is repetition at work. The photographer is using that red cup as a secondary focal point by creating contrast in the color. So again, really look over this whole piece. Here's our prompt for this week. You're going to go to this site, Design Your Way blog inspiration, excellent posters for Design World, 59 examples. I don't know if there could have been a longer URL for me to read. Be sure to scroll down. There are 60 wonderful examples here. You want to choose one poster from the site and take a screenshot of it, and then embed that screenshot into your discussion post. And here's the thing. This is the reason why you have to take a screenshot. In the past, on this website, people have been able to kind of right-click and get the, copy the image address and put that into the discussion post and it would show up. But whoever owns this website was apparently not very happy with us that we were doing that. So they wrote some code that changed every single image that we tried to embed in Canvas and changed it to like some random farmhouse image. And I noticed this the last time that I taught this class, and I was like, oh, well, isn't that fun? So you're going to want to make sure that you can take a screenshot of it, of each of the images or the image that you want to use. And if you have a laptop like mine where the whole thing does not fit in your screen to take the screenshot, right click on it and go to open image in a new tab. And that's going to fit that nicely in the, within the screen. And then to take a screenshot on a Mac, it's Command-Shift-4. And it'll give you the hash marks, and you can just kind of drag right around the edge. And if you haven't set up a specific place for your screenshots to go, it will download it right to your desktop. I personally have my screenshots go somewhere else. So next, what you're going to want to do is describe how color contrast and repetition was or was not used to create impact, what mood was created by the color choices, and how would different choices have affected the overall design. So these are the things that you need to answer within your post. These are the things that you need to do for the post. These are the questions you need to answer within the post. For your citation, because you need to have a citation this week, you might use articles that describe the big 4 design principles: contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity, related to colors or emotions generated from specific color schemes. When you look at your fellow students' discussion posts, again, you need to be responding to 2 of your fellow students. You might discuss how all 4 design principles were implemented to create a successful design. In addition to contrast and repetition, consider where you see alignment and proximity used. What was their impact on the overall success or failure of the design? If you were to change the design in any way, what would you change? Why? Support your answer with design principles that it relates to. So again, your initial and reply post should work to develop a group understanding of this topic, challenge each other, build on each other, be respectful, but discuss it further to figure it out. So to embed an image into your discussion post this week, you're going to want to click on your face over here where your account is. And I'm going to open this in a new tab. So you can kind of right click on it and open that in a new tab. And I like to make a folder for each of my mods. So mod 11, and I'll call this DES 114 week 2. So again, I just don't have organization. I don't have all these images there, and I'm trying to find it. And then upload that screenshot right to that folder. So let's find screenshots today. There we go. Click open. And once you get the little green check mark, that means that it's done. Then in your post, I'm going to say, watch this week's live session to learn how to embed your image in your post. I'm going to click on the little embed image icon. It looks like the mountains with the sun rising. I'm going to go to Canvas, go to my files, find that Mod 11 folder, DES 114 week 2, click on it, and 980 by 1400, that's fine. If you want to make it even a little bit smaller so it loads quicker, that's fine as well. Click update, and it will add it to your post, and then just click to post your reply. And see, this is, all right, this is what happens. So, Rebecca, sorry to call you out, but you're going to need to fix your image because it gives you this weird farmhouse if you do that, copying the image URL. So I'll make a little note. we go. It's this new thing in the last couple of mods where, again, whoever runs the website, they must have been onto us and they're like, no, you will not use our images. And we're like, haha, yes, we will. All right, let's take a look at our assignment for this week. So we're going to be creating a campaign component, our logo and our color palette. Now, our choices that we make this week are going to follow us through the rest of our module. So you're really going to want to pay attention to what you are doing this week. You want to pay attention when you are picking that color palette. The reason why, you are going to want to make sure that you are saving your logo where you can find it. You want to make sure that you are saving your logo correctly. All of these things that you need to do. Because we're going to use this logo in every single one of our assessments and assignments going forward. So that means the week 2 assessment, your poster that you need to create, the color version of your logo needs to be present on that assessment. Week 3, when we create a trifold, the color version of the logo needs to be present on that assignment. When we create the sign in your assessment of week 2, the Pantone version of that logo that you created needs to be present on that assessment. So you can see where you need to keep your files organized, you need to keep everything together going forward, or it's going to make life difficult for you. All right, let's go over our background. And another thing, please do not pick the colors that you see here as the examples. I will take off points. You want to come up with your own color scheme. All right, so choosing colors for a logo is serious business. Not only do the colors have to look great together, they must be able to be used in multiple places, ways, and color spaces. They must reflect both the business that is being represented by the logo and speak to the potential clients of that business. Here's a fantastic blog that you can read on great logo color selections. Be sure to review it before heading into this assessment to better understand the psychology and meaning of the colors selected. Consider how you might apply what the author writes about here to your upcoming project. Once you choose a color palette, it's important to remember that different media demands different color systems. For example, promotional products like mugs and pens, they often use the Pantone color system or a simple spot color, where websites use RGB and full color printing uses CMYK. When choosing logo colors, a designer has to make sure that the colors translate from CMYK, from Pantone to CMYK to RGB with low to no color variations. For some colors, this works really well. The primary yellow color, for example, is very easy to match across the board. However, a saturated orange can be very difficult to achieve using the CMYK color system. Other colors such as peach, bright red, and reflex blue are nearly impossible to get right on that CMYK system of colors. They look terrific on screen, the RGB system, or on a Pantone swatch, but they don't translate well to CMYK. So below you can watch that video that will increase your knowledge of the color system. For this assignment, you need to create 2 color themes for the Aqua Excursions logo, which you will download. And you also, one is going to be 2 colors and the other is going to be 3 colors. So let's just read this over and then I'll show you how we're going to set this up. You're going to download the black and white Aqua Excursions logo. You're going to create a new 8.5 by 11 Illustrator document, and then you're going to utilize the Pantone colors to create 2 different color combinations that are effective solutions for the kayak industry. You're going to create 2 sets of boxes and fill each of those boxes with your chosen colors. Then you're going to duplicate your swatches and convert the colors to CMYK. Note, if the color change is pronounced or minimal, you need to note that. If it's pronounced, meaning there's a huge color difference when you translate it from Pantone to CMYK, you need to choose a different color because your logo's not going to look the same across all of your products, and that's going to be a problem for your client. Open the provided logo in Illustrator. You're going to copy and paste the black and white logo into your file and then apply the CMYK values to each of the theme of the black and white logo that you download, and you're going to save this entire thing as a PDF. That's part one. Part two, you're going to write a 150 to 200 word rationale in Word that explains the reason why you chose the colors in each of the themes. And here's the other thing. When you're writing your rationale and when you are picking your colors, you don't pick colors because you like those colors. I don't care that you like those colors. I'm not trying to be mean. I just literally don't care that you like those colors, because at the end of the day, you're not the client. The client is our kayak guy who owns Aqua Excursions, and he wants a logo that matches the kayak industry. So if you come to me with a logo that is pink and purple and say, but I really just like pink and purple and I thought green worked well with it, I'm going to say, but why does that matter? Is that part of the kayak industry? What about that says kayaking? Because that's what your client is going to say. So you need to take your personal preferences completely out of the equation this week. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if normally you don't really like red or normally you don't really like blue. If you feel that those are the best kayaking colors, then those are the best colors to go with. So again, personal preference out, client preference in. All right. And then again, you're going to submit that as, you're going to save your Word document as a doc file. Then you're going to create a folder with your PDF in your Word document, and you're going to zip that folder and upload it. So best practice, keep your native files. That means keep an Illustrator file as well. That is a native file. All right, so let's start this from the beginning. First things first, download the Aqua Excursions logo, which I am going to do. Going to put those in there. Go to my downloads. Here's my Aqua Excursions, and I'm going to make a folder, and it's going to be week 2 assignment. And again, it's in my Mod 11 DES 114 week 2 folder, week 2 assignment. And I'm going to drag that black and white logo in. Next, I'm going to create a 1-page 8.5 by 11 Illustrator document. I think I have all of the Adobe programs open now. Give that a second to load. Create new. So I need 8.5 by 11, 1 artboard. I want it to be CMYK color. And why are you giving me that? Let's go to print. All right, there we go. So you might want to go to print. If you get like that little exclamation, you can't figure out why. It might have been some weird setting. So if you go to print and start over, 8.5 by 11, 1 artboard, CMYK, it should be high, default, create. Drag you over, close you up, and I'm going to turn on my rulers. Rulers, show rulers. There we go. All right, so again, I need to have 2 different color palettes. So you can see how it needs to be set up here. I need to have a 3-color palette and a 2-color palette. This is all one page right here, 1 8.5 by 11 page. You are going to have both logos set up with their color schemes on one page. And you may notice that these 2 color schemes are wildly different. Here's another tip. When create your 3-color scheme first. Your 2-color scheme should honestly be 2 of these colors applied with 1 color left off. Because if your logos are wildly different, again, you don't have that consistency. You don't have that repetition. It would be like if McDonald's has the golden arches when they are in front of the red background. But if the red background is gone, then the golden arches are all of a sudden pink. That wouldn't make any sense. There wouldn't be any consistency in their logo. You need to have consistency in your logo. All right. Let me I'll close you up and put you over here. All right, so again, to get to those Pantone swatches, the easiest way is to kind of go into your swatches. If you don't have them open, go to Window, Swatches, and make sure it's checked. You can kind of drag it out if you need to. And click on the 3 lines right here, and you're going to go down to Open Swatch Library. Oh, where are you? Color books. And then I would go with probably the Pantone Uncoated, honestly. And you can kind of pull that over here. And you can see how many colors there are. And there's a lot to choose from. So you can actually search. You can also make the thumbnails a little bit bigger if you want. And open that up so you can see the names. You can actually search online and look through the Pantone colors. The problem is not all of them are loaded in Illustrator, which is kind of a bummer. So sometimes it might be easier to just kind of scroll through the book until you see a color that you like, and then apply it. And then other times, you know, it might just be easier for you to type in, you know, and find the color at the book. And I know I have here we are, Pantone.com color finder. So again, you can look for blue. And it's going to bring up the blues, and it'll sort them by number. And then, you know, let's say that you really, really want this blue 0821. The C stands for coated. This is the uncoated, so 0821U for uncoated. So we can go back in and put in 0821. And all right, they do have it in here. So you could use that color. And even look at the difference between the uncoated dark blue and the coated dark blue. See, even within, you know, the coated and uncoated colors, that there can be that variation. So these are things you want to really consider. Even these ones. Uncoated means it's not glossy. It's the type of paper that's printed on. Coated paper is usually a glossy paper. So this doesn't have a lot of color variation. These don't have a lot of color variation. Let's even see if dark blue, oh, dark blue does come up. I'm gonna go with this 0821. So I have, actually, let me start over. Let me open up my logo. Make things a little jump in the gamut here, sorry. I like to get all of my stuff set up where I need to be. I'll put you over here and I'll drag you back over here, I guess. All right, let's grab this logo. So I'm going to just do a Command A. I'm on the black arrow key, and I'm going to copy it. Command C, or go up to Edit Copy, and I'll close that out. I'm going to paste it in. And you can see it pastes in pretty small. So I need to scale this. So there's two ways you can scale it. You can start to drag from the corner and you need to hold down shift. And this is where people end up messing up their logo right off the bat. First off, group this whole thing so things don't move around. Command G. Second, go to Object, hold on, select, transform, Object, I want to scale. I know what the quick key is, I just want to find it for everybody who doesn't know quick keys. Transform, here we go, scale. We want to do a uniform scale. So let's preview that. Maybe I want to try to make it 3 times as big. So I'm going to do 300%. That might work, and hit OK. Perfect. And I'm going to make a copy of this. So again, I've selected everything. I'm holding down my Option key. And I'm going to drag this down here. Oh, okay, thank you. And I need to do 2 sets of boxes. So maybe that's a little bit too big. Let me scale it down again. So go to Object, Transform, Scale, whoops, Uniform. I want to bring it down 90% from where it is. Yeah, that's probably good. Okay. And then bring this one up closer to the top. And I'll bring this one down a little bit. And then I can select the 2 of them. And I'm going to see that I want to center them. Align to the artboard. Oh, wow. I must have had it pretty spot on. And then this is what I like to do first. I like to draw my boxes that I need. So I need to have, you know, 2 sets of color swatches here. I need CMYK swatches and RGB swatches. So I need to have a 3-color color scheme and a 2-color color scheme. So I'm gonna set up, wow, that got weird. What the heck just happened there? I don't even know. I don't even know what this is. Is this some weird option? Alrighty. That's strange. One more time. Unless, what happens when I, oh my goodness, what on earth is this? This has to be something new from the upgrade. I just want a rectangle. I want it to be 2 by 1. Okay, I'm gonna have to Google that. So I've got 1 rectangle, 2 rectangles, 3 rectangles, and I want these 2. That one, there we go. And so I've got my CMYK swatches for them, and then I'm gonna have Pantone swatches for them. And then I'm gonna need just 2 sets of squares, so I'll grab these ones, and bring them down here, maybe shift this whole thing up a little. Again, just, you want it to look nice and neat on the page. I still don't know why that drew. What on earth? Oh, I'm gonna have to customizable toolbar. Yeah, all right, but what's going on with the actual tools here? Okay, I'm gonna have to look that one up. That is bizarre. All right, so I have everything set up, but set up obviously in black and white. I'm gonna actually group these right now. center and center everything to the artboard. Group and center that to the artboard. Perfect. And then I'll ungroup them. Ungroup them. Okay. There we go. All right, so I need to think through my color scheme. And that might require you to do some research on the kayak industry and maybe even pull up, you know, Adobe Color. So one of the ways that you can do some research is to look at kayak images. Kayak on river, we'll say. And so you can see that the kayaks are kind of bright colors. We got a lot of bright reds, oranges, and yellows, even a bright green there. When we think of aqua excursions, aqua is blue. So what might work well with blue? Maybe, you know, that nice light blue with a really bold orange and a more, you know, maybe two blues and an orange or something, or a blue, an orange, and a yellow. You know, some things to think about here when you're trying to figure it out. And if you're just having trouble like putting the colors together, you know, kind of in your mind, what you can do is maybe grab a picture of a kayak, you know, save that image. Week 2 assignment. And then bring it into Adobe Color. So you go to import an image. And maybe I want to start to bring some yellows, some light blues, maybe the orange of the kayak, maybe that blue. That guy's face. It's like, didn't take my picture. So I've got some, you know, some good color schemes going here. I've got like this orange, I got like a blue and a yellow. Drag that over. Or maybe this blue. You know, or maybe even these 3. So some bright colors, you know, it gives you a good gauge to kind of start off with. So I'm gonna pull up my color, and I like this, you know, I like this Pantone color that I found. So I am going to make a new folder, and I'm gonna call it Aqua Excursions, and I'm making it right in my swatches palette. And unfortunately it put black in there, which I can delete that out. Whoops, no, I want you in there. There we go. All right, let's try that again. Aqua Excursions. Okay. And you'll notice that it put that Pantone swatch in there. And you can tell it's a Pantone swatch because it's got the little dot down at the bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to colorize this square as this color. Next, I want to find, I'm going to delete that out. I want to find a nice kind of, whoops, yellow. Click on the next square. And again, you can kind of open it up. Maybe a more, again, because it's going to be, something's going to have to be that yellow, so it needs to be kind of bright. That's a good one. And I'll drag this down here into my Aqua Excursions color, so they're together. And then next I need to find, I'm gonna go with a, I think I'm gonna go with an orange. Oh, that's actually, I was gonna say a muted orange, and that's pretty much a pretty good muted orange. And drag that in. Whoops. Down here. No. Down here. There we go. I'll close you up for a second. But in order to see if it works, I need to apply it to the logo. So I'm going to ungroup my logo. And this is where things can go wrong. Don't shift anything. I've seen like this part ends up over here by accident, or somehow things end up weird with the words. Don't redraw the logo. Don't do anything to the logo. Just open it up in Illustrator and copy and paste it in. So I'm going to grab the aqua, and I want that to be the blue. And I'm going to grab excursions. I want that to be the orange. And then maybe I make my swoosh yellow. So pretty bright, but you know what? I feel like it's all kind of muted. So maybe I need something bolder somewhere. So let's see. Some bolder orange. Maybe this is the same exact color. I go the same color over and over and over again. Flip this one. Oh, that's a little bit bolder. Let me see. That stands out a bit better. Drag that down here. Maybe trash that one. And recolor this square. And maybe even my aqua color needs to be my blue needs to be a little bit bolder. Ooh, that's a good one. Drag you down here. But I still really like this blue. So maybe instead of using a yellow, maybe I use a light blue. Ooh, I think I like that. All right, so I've got my dark blue, my light blue, and my orange. And I'm going to trash that yellow out of there. And these are my three colors. So I can see what it looks like. All right, but how are these colors going to be as CMYK? I don't know. Let's see. So first things first, I got to colorize the boxes underneath here. And then I need to select this and go to Edit, Edit Colors, Convert to CMYK. Convert that one. I'm going to drag that CMYK swatch over here. And you'll notice the dot is gone. But you can zoom in, and I'm not seeing a huge difference. So, all right, that one's good first. And then this one, again, I'm going to select the box down here. I'm going to go Object, or Edit, Edit Colors, Convert to CMYK, and I'll drag that in next to it. Still looks good, not a huge problem, but that orange, we got to see how that orange does. Edit Colors, Convert to CMYK. Wow, I'm not kidding. Like, we kind of lucked out with these three. All right, so I've got my color scheme here. But what you want to do is you want to apply the CMYK palette to your logo. So right now, I have the Pantone colors attached to the logo. So I need to switch that out. And there's, you can do it one of two ways. You can manually click on each and click on the swatch, or grab the whole logo and do an Edit, Convert to CMYK, and it's going to convert to that color palette. Just double check. Oh, I was on the wrong orange. Let's say that orange still looks wrong. What about this one? Yep. And yeah. All right. And then when you click on it, you can see which color you're selecting, so you know you have the right one. And that's why making that color, the color scheme, really important. So now down here, I think I'm going to drop the light blue is what I'm going to drop. I'm going to keep the blue and the orange, the dark blue and the dark orange. So I'm going to ungroup this, and I'm going to select this box, the top one, and use my eyedropper tool. and I'm gonna make that one my Pantone. Same thing here, or you can just click in the palette. And then this one, whoops. Ugh, I hate when you do that. Go back, back. This one is going to be the CMYK, and this one will be the CMYK. So double check here. Pantone CMYK, Pantone CMYK. And then all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna colorize aqua and the wave, the blue, and excursions is gonna stay the orange. So you can see the slight variation in the two logos between my 3-color logo and my 2-color logo. They, you know, the only thing that's different is I've lost that light blue and I've replaced it with the darker blue. So not a huge difference between the two. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a file save as, grab my naming convention. Oops. I'm going to leave off the .pdf because I want to save a illustrative version of it first. To assignment. Then I'll do a file save as. Do a PDF. Save that PDF. Then open it up. Make sure everything's still there. Make sure it looks good. And oh, I hate these things. Ink Manager, and you should have, when you open up the Ink Manager, you should have 3 spot colors that show up. Whoops, cancel. There we go. And your process colors. And if you click right here, it will change them to process colors for you, which you definitely don't want to do. You can convert it right in Acrobat, which is a great thing if you need to. And so that's how you can kind of double check that. Flattener preview used to. There used to be a way where you could preview the spot colors. It would just show them, and it's not like you could turn off the process colors and just view the spot colors, and they changed how they did it, and I'm not quite sure how to do that anymore. It used to be Flattener preview, or let me think, channels? Maybe they have no channels in here. So I'll have to Google that. Again, every time they upgrade, they take away something that I use all the time. All right, so this is how you set up your assignment for this week. I'm going to close that out. Next part of your assignment was that 150 to 200 word rationale. I'm not saying that this needs to be APA formatted, but there are some things that I will take off points if you do not have. If your document does not have your name on it, if it doesn't have, you know, like some sort of a heading to it, okay, you know, some sort of a format to it. If it's just looks like you wrote it out in text edit with nothing there, just text, I'm going to take off points. So use some sort of a template. You know, something so it stands out a little bit better. Let me see, like, you know, you can just use a basic template. You don't even, you know, you don't even have to use a template. Just please put your name, put the date, you know, center it, you know, Shannon McNamara, DES 114, week 2 assignment. October 22nd, 2018. You know, make it look professional, make it look correct. Check your spelling, check your grammar. If things are underlined, fix it. Make sure that you have the right amount of, you know, words in it. Your rationale should go into the color theory behind your color choices and why it will work. I need to know why it's going to work for the kayak industry. I'm your client this week. I own Aqua Excursions, and I need to know why it is that you pick those colors for my business. So, you know, write it all out, make it look nice, save. Again, to assignment, use the same naming convention, save. I don't know why you just did that. And then you're going to put both of these in a folder. Name your folder the same thing, DES114 assignment 2, your first and last name. We're going to put the PDF in the folder. We're going to put the doc file in the folder. Then we're going to zip the folder. So you either need to control click or right click and compress, make a zip folder. That zip folder is what needs to be uploaded. However, I'm going to give you a little tip for this week. If you like when I give you the comments right in your gradebook that you can see up against the PDF, what you can do is choose to upload the zip folder and then add another file. Whoops. And choose to upload just the PDF, and I'll leave you comments on your PDF if you like that, and then submit the assignment. There you go, and you can double check that it's submitted. All right, for your assessment for this week, you're going to create a poster. Your poster needs to, you can read over the background because we don't have a ton of time left, but your poster needs to incorporate the following: your final color Aqua Excursions logo. Choose the strongest color combination, so either your 2-color or your 3-color, and again, it needs to be the CMYK version of it. Up to 2 images from the Sunset Paddle images. Then you have a headline, Sunset Paddle Adventures. You have body copy. And there's something I'm going to point out about the body copy. Family Adventure Packages Available does not have a period at the end. So do you think all of this goes together as one paragraph? Or do you think maybe, you know, it's also body copy, but they want this to maybe stand out on its own? It's up to you. If you think it all goes together as one paragraph, I would add the period at the end. If you think it needs to stand out on its own, but being the same size, I wouldn't add the period at the end. And then a call to action. Visit aquaexcursions.com for more information. This is going to be 11 by 17 with a 1/4-inch bleed, and it needs to be set up as CMYK. All of your images need to be converted to CMYK. All your spot colors need to be converted to CMYK. Your live area needs to be applied appropriately. So no important text or elements too close to the trim. Your bleeds need to be correctly implemented. Your document needs to be packaged for print. Let's set this up. So this needs to be created in InDesign. If you give me something in Illustrator, you're going to get a 0. If you give me something that's designed in Photoshop, you're going to get a 0. You need to use InDesign for this assignment. So 11 by 17, I'm going to do a 1/2-inch margin. That is a good margin. I suggest the same. And our bleed is 0.125. And create. Oh, brother. And let's go back in and download our sunset paddle images. So again, using our, what we learned about our crap design principles this week, this is what you're going to want to, week 2 assessment, sorry. That's what you're going to want to, implement this week with your poster, those different principles. Bring that over here. First thing that I like to do is I like to open up the images and convert them to CMYK. There's also a couple of things that you should note about the images when you open them up in Photoshop. Some of them are the appropriate size to be a background for an 11 by 17. Some of them are not. And it has to be 11 by 17 vertical, not horizontal. So this one, let's look at the size. Image size is 13 by 20. This will work well for a background for an 11 by 17. I'm going to go to image mode, change it from RGB to CMYK, click OK, do a file save, and close that out. This one, my image size is 8 by 6, and my resolution is only 200. This is not going to be a good background photo. And because I want to use one photo as the entire background of my piece, I don't want to use multiple photos. This isn't going to work for me, so I'm not even going to bother with this one. This one, image size is 11 by 16.483 in 300 dpi. This one we can fudge enough to get it to fit the 11 by 17 within our bleed. So this one's okay. We can go a little bit over. So I'm going to change it to CMYK, and I'm going to save it. This one, 12 by 18, that at 300 dpi. This one will work perfectly. So I'm going to change it to CMYK, and save and close that out. This one is 8 by 5 at 200 dpi. That's way too small. It's not going to work. So I'm going to close this one out. I'm not even going to use it. This one is 8 by 5 as well. Not going to use it. And that is my old one. All right, so I have a couple of good contenders. I have 3 good contenders this week. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into Illustrator, and I'm going to open up my logo that I just made in my assignment. Open up my native file. And I'm going to use my 3-color logo. So I want to copy and paste this out of here. I want to copy it out of my assignment. Do a copy. I'm going to do a new document. And I'll just do 8.5 by 11 at first. Paste that in. And then I'm going to just adjust my artboard, my artboard to crop it nice and close. I don't want to crop anything out. So be careful the little edges right there of that wave. Hit enter. Okay. And double check everything. And I'm going to do a file, save as, and I'm going to go into my assessment folder. And I'm going to name this Aqua Logo 3-color crop. I'll save it as an AI file. Okay. And here's my color scheme that I had. So I want to go into my library, and I'm going to create, I have a folder for DES 114. I am going to drag in these colors. Come on. No, you can do that. Oh, you're gonna make me select them first, aren't you? All right. And add fill color. Ugh. Add fill color and add fill color. All right, so I got my 3 in there. 1, 2, 3. And I can rename them. So I'm gonna say aqua orange, aqua blue 1, and aqua blue 2. And you'll notice in the background here, it recolored my logo because it was still selected. So when I close this, I want to make sure I don't save this, what I just did. But now when I go into my DES 114 library in my CC libraries, my color scheme will show up, and that's going to keep it consistent throughout all of my different programs. So I needed to add that in. I'll close this out. And here it is. I'll say, where's my file? All right. So CC libraries. Let's see. Let's load it. And I've got aqua blue, aqua orange. I'm going to grab these 3 colors and I'm going to right click and I'm going to add those colors to my swatches. There they are. They're in my swatch panel. Way easier for me to use them that way if I need to. All right. So this is where you're going to need to start to put different things together using those CRAP principles. Make sure that when you are placing your background image or any background, it goes from the bleed line to the bleed line. It needs to extend to all 4 of these bleed lines. So I'm going to do a file place. Images. And here's another thing to consider. What is your color scheme of your logo? Because you'll notice we have a very orange image, a very blue image, and then kind of a mixture of both. So which one's gonna work best for you? Those are some things that you need to consider here, because you don't want your logo, you know, if you have a lot of blue, you might not want to use this one. Your logo's gonna get lost. If you have a lot of orange, you might not want to use this one. Your logo's gonna get lost. If you have a mixture of both, this could be the image for you. I'm gonna go with this image. I'm gonna start right up here at the edge. Look in place. And I need to extend it down to the bottom. And then again, I extended the rectangle down to the bottom. You wanna click in here, go with the white arrow, go up to object, fitting, and you want to fit content proportionally. Whoops, object fitting, I always pick the wrong option. Fill frame proportionately, there we go. And double check how big it made it. Where are my options here? Window. Oh, brother. Everything looks different. Not info. Oh, here's my old workspace. I wonder if it still works. Here's my old workspace. All right, if you had a workspace saved, you might want to pull it up. I'm gonna have to look into, I didn't know where my bar went up here. I was like, that's interesting. That's always fun. All right, so I'm only at 84%. So we're good. I've placed that. It's only at 84%. It's CMYK. Next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna place my logo. So I don't forget. People always forget the logo on the assessment. So place, and my logo. Make sure, see that stands out nicely over this background. Then, you know, you have some headline text. Here's something that you want to think about too when you're picking a font. This is, it's either Helvetica or Arial. It's one of the two. You know, Helvetica is probably the better choice, but this is already a font. You already have one font on the page. So you don't want to go overboard on your fonts because of this. You have a headline, your body copy, and a call to action. Think of your proximity. You know, where do you want your headline? Where do you want your body copy? Where do you want your call to action? A call to action, that should stand out. So I'm going to pull up an old example, and it just has like text there, but I think it'll give you a good idea of what I've done in the past. So here's an example, like call to action, headline, body copy, that other line of body copy. The only thing missing here is my logo, but you can see the hierarchy in my text. Different things stand out. I'll probably see my headline first, then I might see the call to action. Then if I'm still interested, I'll go back in and read the body copy. That's how the eye should move around your page. You want to make sure it moves around the page. So these are some of the things that you need to think about when you are putting together this piece. I only have technically two different fonts here. I have a headline font, my body copy font, and my call to action are the same font. This is just the italic version of the font, and this is the regular version of the font. So again, things to think about. You might even have this might be the same file. Yeah, that's the same file. Don't save. All right. So once you have everything together and how you want it to go, and you have all the words on the page, you're going to save this. We have naming convention. So save your InDesign file with the naming convention. Do a file, save as. You'll have to save it first. Then you're going to package the file. So we're going to do file, package. Make sure you're in the right place. And your folder should be named the same as your naming convention. And you want to include a PDF. But your PDF needs to have the crop and bleed marks. So you may have in another class set up a preset with the crop and bleed marks and saved it. If you've done that, select that here and hit package. If you haven't done it, just create the PDF as it is, and we're going to do that part next. I'm going to show you that part. Oh my goodness, all these things going on here. All right, so this is what I mean by crop and bleed marks. My packaged folder right here, my PDF. See how I have a set of crop marks right here? This is my bleed right here, where it extends to the bleed line, but this is where it's cropped. So you got two sets of marks here. I need to see those two sets of marks. If you have the registration bar up at the top, that's fine too. But at least I need to see the two sets of crop marks on your PDF. That is a press quality PDF. So this is how you set that up. You go to File, Adobe PDF Presets, and click on the high quality print one. And we're going to define a new preset. And click Save. It's going to pull up this, this dialog box. You want to go to Marks and Bleeds and click on All Printer Marks, Use Document Bleed Settings. And then we're going to hit, and then you can save that preset, and you'll always have it ready to go when you need to do crop and bleed marks. I highly suggest saving it. Name it something that makes sense. Crop and bleed marks, whatever. I already have my preset set. Then you'll hit export. Open up a new Finder window and go to the folder that you just made that PDF in. So week two assessment. Here it is. There's that PDF I just made. And this one has the registration bar, which is fine. I'm gonna drag this into my package folder and replace that PDF that was in there. So see how I have my package folder? Now I have that new PDF in there. Double check it. Looks good. Close it up. Go back. And again, I'm going to select the whole folder, Do not send me just the IDML file. Do not send me just the InDesign file. Do not send me just the PDF file. I need your whole folder packaged and zipped. So I'm going to right click, compress it, or control click and press it. And it'll give me the zip file. And again, go into the submission, submit assignment. I'm going to choose the zip folder. Week 2 assessment. Here's my zip folder. Open that up. And again, you have the option if you want to add another file. Choose, and you can grab just that PDF that you created and add that, and then I can leave you those comments again on that PDF if you like it that way, and then submit your assignment. So again, make sure that you are reading over all of your prompts for this week. Take time with your design this week. Take time with the colors, because we're going to use the colors and the logo throughout the rest of our assignments for this mod. If you have any questions, please feel free to come to the multi-session tomorrow. And again, if you have any missing work, try to get that work in as soon as possible, so that way you don't fall too far behind. And I hope that you guys have a great week too. All right, have a good day.